Welcome back to another episode of the Lawyers in the Making podcast. I'm your host, as always, Nate Crespo, and today we have a very special guest. She's a University of Notre Dame Mendoza College of Business graduate and currently works as a master structured settlement consultant and as a C-suite network executive leader. She's held past positions as a certified structured settlement consultant at EPS Settlements Group and as a certified structured settlement consultant at Financial Settlement Services. Mrs. Jodie Lamb, welcome to the podcast. How are we doing today?
I'm good, late Nate. We started off here wrong. We're just going to call me Jodie Lamb. I'm not Mrs. Anything right now. But and then I'll also add that in addition to financial settlement services and EPS, the company I work now with is Arcadia Settlements. So 18 years in the structured settlement industry. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm very happy to have you here, Jodie. And I'd just like to say beforehand, before I ask you to introduce yourself, this is a very, very special episode for a very special reason because Jodie is the first guest on the podcast that is not actually an attorney, but she has so much time in the legal field and the legal industry that she has so much to offer to any attorneys out there or law students looking for an alternate path into the law, which is something I absolutely hammer on and something that has just become the essence of this podcast, that there is no straight path to the law. Everyone has their own unique path, and there's many different ways to get into it. But Jodie, before we get started, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I absolutely adore that you're embracing alternative paths into the law. So I didn't see myself here talking to you regarding the law or to attorneys in your network here, but my path started very, very humble. I grew up as the oldest of four children in the Midwest. I grew up in Columbus area. Lived there up until 2013. I now live in Dallas. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a construction company owner. He still owns his business, one of the salt of the earth people. We had a beautiful life. We didn't want for anything, but we didn't have a lot. I was my undergraduate degree was at Ohio University, and I paid my way through school. It was actually during my freshman year of college when I was involved in a car accident. And we can get into that story later, but that was kind of the start of where my story began in my professional career. But I was a finance major, had a concentration in insurance, had a wonderful professor from New York Life, just adored him. He was fun, engaging, made insurance interesting. And so I kind of became an insurance geek. And I embrace that. I mean, I have had now 25 years in the insurance industry, but it was all founded, with a really great instructor at school, leaning into that which I found interesting, and much like your efforts here on the podcast, trying to figure out what's your next step, what's going to be best for you, what interests you. So find what you like, lean into it, and have fun. But I worked in insurance with a major insurance company out of college. Also worked with Park Avenue Securities, Guardian Life, Nationwide Insurance. Then started getting into personal injury claims. That's when I discovered structured settlements, and the rest they say is history. But yeah, I have 15-year-old twins. I live here in Dallas now, and I'm loving life. Excited to be here.
Well, I'm absolutely excited for you to be here as well, and I always love to hear that you're loving life because that's the most important part. We only got one of them, so we might as well love it. So let's go all the way back. You were at Ohio University, and you talked about the car crash. So let's get into that. Let's talk about what started your path towards structured settlements and insurance and all that.
Right. Okay. Well, this is not a badge of honor here. This is a humble story of just the reality that many people face. When I was driving to school one morning, I just minding my own business, went through an intersection. Someone had run a red light. They T-boned me, hit hard enough that I spun around, hit a parked car, wrapped around a telephone pole. When we're young, We jumped back. We're fine. Got this. No, we're fine. But I wasn't fine. But the doctor said, you're fine. So I said, okay, I'm fine. And the insurance company, I think they offered me like $1,000. And I thought I was rich. I was so excited. I took the $1,000 and I didn't know what I really just did. And the bills came in. And I didn't even get the bills paid. And so I had to go back to the insurance company and I said, yeah, you gave me $1,000, but that doesn't even cover my bills. And so I advocated enough to at least have them modify the conditions of the settlement to cover those medical bills. So I walked away with practically nothing when it was all said and done. I didn't anticipate that within a few years, I was going to be having my first surgery. I had L5S1 laminectomy and discectomy in 2001. I was walking completely bent over, head to my toes. I could not stand upright. And by the time I made it to the surgeon, she said, Jodie, there's no therapy that can fix this. You need immediate surgery. And so I followed doctor's orders, had the surgery. 11 years later, I had the next surgery, L4, L5. And so as you will quickly learn in the personal injury world, if you have one surgery, the surrounding discs take on the extra load. And so it's progressive. And in 2021, I had L3-4 disc herniation. But this surgery was different than the prior two. Other ones, I felt immediately better as soon as it got the disc herniation got off the nerve. But in July of 2021, after the L3, L4, it reherniated. And I had to fight insurance to insist for additional imaging, to insist that to my doctor, something's not right. This wasn't my first experience having a back surgery, and I knew that something didn't. So it was getting worse. I ended up with severe drop foot. I couldn't walk. I struggled to crawl from my bed to my bathroom. So by the time I got back to the imaging, after insisting, I'm like, I'll pay out of pocket if necessary. I don't care if insurance pays or not. This is important to me. You had patient advocacy needed to be engaged, and insistence. And by the time I got to the surgeon's office at 5 p.m. on Friday, he's like, why didn't you tell me this sooner? And I said, well, I've been in twice. I've talked to the physician's assistant. I just, they kept telling me this is the numbing, it's getting, this is to be expected. So it's very frustrating when you don't have an attorney to help you navigate these conversations, just to understand what the right process is. So you trust your doctors, you trust your parents, but our limited information and experience leads us in a void when we don't have proper counsel. So ultimately, no surprise, my disc had reherniated, and within weeks of the first L3, L4, I had another one. But the residual drop foot nerve damage is still here. Fortunately, I am really keen on working out and working to use other parts of muscles and balance, and to be able to be stronger now than I've ever been before in my life. So I take that experience as opportunity to grow and become stronger. And again, just reinforce my own understanding and compassion working with injured parties, because they're going down conversations and paths and experiences they've never experienced before, whether it be at the first onset of the accident, injury, treatment, settlement, post-settlement, surgeries. There's a lot of uncertainty in the process. So I bring that perspective and consideration and understanding when I work with families and injured parties. And I said, that's kind of the start of my career. I didn't know it at the time. In fact, I didn't even know about structured settlements until 2005, 2006. And this was an accident that happened long before then. So to all the attorneys listening in law school, they're not going to really talk about structured settlements. It's a small subset of a tax code that is buried in personal injury opportunities to provide your clients guaranteed tax-free future payments. Their settlements tax-free. You already know that. But did you know that if at time of settlement you negotiate future payments, that those future payments are going to grow? And they're not going to have to pay any tax on interest, dividends, or capital gains. So that is the information that I learned while negotiating personal injury settlements. After I graduated college, I was a financial planner. I learned quickly that right out of college, people don't necessarily trust you to be investing their retirement income. You kind of lack a little bit of experience. So respecting that, I needed a little bit more opportunity to learn. I went to work for Nationwide Insurance. I started handling individual annuity investments, personal investments for individuals and businesses, and got it kind of behind the scenes look. Advanced my career into the insurance side of the business. I started handling personal injury cases, settlements, and that's when I discovered structured settlements. Not when I got my Series 6, 67 life health annuity licenses, talked about it in school. Certainly not when I poorly negotiated my own personal injury settlement, but when I was actually handling claims. And I started handling claims because I was involved in a second auto accident shortly before then. And so in hindsight, I'm like, I can do so much better to help people. I can handle claims. I enjoyed it to some degree, but honestly, I could never do enough. I wanted to do more for people. Unfortunately, when you're settling claims, money's all that they have to offer. They can't give back time. They can't give back the loss of life. They can't undo or relieve pain. And money is arbitrary. It's not going to make anything better as far as your experience and your pain, but it can be used to help you going forward. I just, in claims, felt like I couldn't give enough. When I discovered structured settlements, I figured a way to give more as a neutral party to the negotiation. So I didn't have to be on one side or the other. I was there to advocate for the injured party. And that's where I've been. I found my purpose. I found my mission. I love what I do. I've been doing this now for 18 years, and I don't see myself doing anything else.
Well, I just have to say that's an amazing story. It's an inspiring story. I find that when people go through experiences and they use those experiences in order to help other people who have, faced the kind of things that they have, not saying that my experience through this podcast was any sort of comparable to yours, but doing this, I found that the situation that I find myself in right now, in terms of uncertainty about law school, I'm helping people through this podcast and helping people understand if it's the right choice for them. And it's not, once again, not comparable in any way to what you went through and what you help people with, because there's, a lot more money involved. There's a lot more at stake. But I find it so inspiring to myself, because I will continue what I want to do, because I love doing this podcast. And I find it amazing that you love what you do. And just like you said, you feel that you'll never stop doing it for the rest of your life. And I find that absolutely amazing. I think for most people in their professional careers, that would be an end goal in any sort of way. So I think that's just amazing that you love your job, you love what you do. And that's such an important point to make, because I think a lot of people go into work, and especially in the legal industry, go into work that they probably don't like that much. They don't enjoy the job or the office or the culture. And, they hate themselves for it. And I would never want to end up that way. And I strive every day not to do that. And I think it's a great point to make for people out there listening, to understand that and be able to digest that sort of point, to find what you love, find what gives you purpose, find what gets you out of bed every day. Because I think it's really important. But I have to ask, from that, I think something through law school that kind of gets not misconstrued, but thrown out the window a bit. And I haven't been to law school myself, but talking to enough people who have, the human aspect of the law is so prevalent that it kind of gets lost through law school. You're always reading cases, you're always, looking at statutes and precedents. Can you talk about the human aspect that you have seen from your own experience through structured settlements?
Absolutely. Well, my own personal perspective is in building on what you just said. We can find ourselves in circumstances that we don't enjoy, didn't see ourselves struggling to do. We invested a lot of time and energy in an education and feel somewhat trapped. It's commendable to you to have this foresight before you even get to that point to say, I want to explore and lean into this in a curious way, because you can kind of get better guidance going forward. I figured it out the hard way. And at the time, I felt like I was abandoning my education and my career. When I changed from a financial planner to go work for an insurance company, I went from working with that human element, that individual investment, working face to face, planning with people, to kind of being behind the scenes. And I really was upset with myself because I felt like I had let my own educational aspirations down, because I saw myself doing much bigger things in helping people, not just being a behind the scenes kind of data entry, just kind of working, on a computer. That wasn't what I envisioned. But then again, I needed that experience to grow. I struggled the first year as a financial planner. I was right out of college. I was a baby. I didn't know anything. And my friends' parents were like, yeah, we're not trusting you yet. Come back to us when you have a little bit more experience. But I still pushed through. I got it, but you know what? I didn't love it. So I recognized that, leaned into the opportunity to change, get more experience. And then when I left that, even from the individual annuity investments to handling personal injury cases, it was only because I had explored all those opportunities and I kind of felt bored and I wasn't challenged. And after 9/11, job opportunities dried up in the financial space. And having my own personal claims experience, I felt like, well, I'm turning my back again on my financial aspirations. Now I'm going to claims. It kind of felt like a step down, because it wasn't at all what I anticipated to do. And to be able to change again was, again, embracing that uncertainty, because we never know what that next opportunity is going to be. At the time, it felt totally unrelated and unconnected until I got into claims. And that's when I discovered the structured settlement. So you had the combination of my own personal physical injury and process of a claimant in the whole journey of being involved in an accident, getting injured, settling a claim, personal financial planning, being able to work with people long term, behind the scenes, understanding investments, then understanding the claims process. Understanding all of that and bringing that to the conversations we have with people every single day in my occupation today was imperative to make me a successful and empathetic, compassionate, and understanding as I am today. You talk about the human aspect. It's unavoidable, whether you're working on the defense side or the plaintiff side or the, you know, for unrepresented parties. It really comes down to being able to connect to individuals. We work with those that we know, like, and trust. That has been the focus of my effort on becoming more visible on social media and LinkedIn. That is why it's important when we're working with individuals, whether it be for work, personal, whatever. We just got to get to know people, and that human component is, I feel like, a disconnect in a world post COVID, when we all kind of started shutting doors and disconnecting from that engagement. So leaning into these conversations like you're having here today, Nate, and in live streamings, I just started just like little video shorts on live stream with a Wish I Had Known series, learning about things that we've learned over the years, and when hindsight's 2020 and knowledge is power, sharing those words of wisdom with people, so we can help others avoid potentially making the similar mistakes. The human aspect is irreplaceable. It's always going to be there, and it's what connects us together so that we can be empathetic, to be understanding, to be able to have conversations so people can open up and not only want to work with us, but so that we know how to best support them.
Yeah, I think you made a couple of very important points there, but I have to ask from that, you've talked a lot about growth. You talked a lot about hard experience that you had to go through in order to really reach that end goal. And I apologize in advance because I am a philosophy major, and I always talk about how I try to hold in the philosophy whenever I speak to anyone, but I just simply can't sometimes. And I always think about when I think about the hard experiences, I think about Aristotle, who's one of my favorite philosophers ever, but he talks extensively about catharsis and how important it is to sort of go through hard things in order to get to the good and be able to go through them. And I just have to ask from that, it is very similar to more of the modern conception of it, which is sort of a growth mindset, which is something I always end up talking about because the guest brings it up and I have to ask now, how important is having a growth mindset has been for your professional career and just personal life in general.
I'd say it's foundational. Um, I always challenge myself to learn. I'm a perpetual learner. I have a little bit of an alphabet soup behind my name just because I enjoy the academic of learning and continuing to advance my own knowledge so that I can help other people. It's not good enough to just be good enough sometimes. I want to be better for myself and for those that I work for.
Yeah, listen, perfectly said. I can't put it out enough how important the growth mindset has been for myself. Obviously, the other side of that is more of a scarcity mindset where you're a little less resourceful. You look at things, you'd be like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do this. And I think that is something that has absolutely changed my life. I know you spoke about working out before. I love the gym. I always talk about the gym. It's my home really. I go there every day. I make sure I get in there. And it really sort of exemplified the whole growth mindset. Just something as simple as lifting a weight and then going in the next day and lifting a higher weight for more reps. It sort of it for me it was like sort of the light bulb moment, like holy crap, like this is life. This is what it's all about. This is just something as small as just lifting a weight can be comparable to anything that you do. I heard you say knowledge is power, one of my favorite sayings ever. I think it was like some English priest from the 13th century who said that because I looked it up one time and I was like, who said that? Because I thought it was someone a little farther back. But I think that's a really important phrase to have in your life because it really is true. Knowledge is really power, and you can really impact people in such important ways. When you advance your knowledge, you can help people out, just like your own live streaming. Like, I wish I knew that, and you're delivering it to people. I know a couple episodes ago I spoke, or was it last episode, which is not out yet. But Luke Yingling was talking about how, you learn from your scar tissue, and it's even better when you can learn from other people's scar tissue. So you don't have to have that own impact on yourself as well, go through those hard times, even though they are important. Um, but from there, I have to ask, with bringing in the human aspect, what are the sorts of skills that have helped you interact with people in productive and efficient ways and really get to know them? Sort of the soft skills. What are some that are important to you and have helped you?
Talk less, listen more.
The,
You talk about scar tissue. I think we need to listen more. Like our bodies will tell us what it needs. I have a Pilates coach, Michael Gale, who I met on LinkedIn. And I'll talk about crazy things, and we do that virtually. But I've had almost 30 years of spinal issues and surgeries and recoveries, and the scar tissue will try to protect the body, and the body then will try to adjust. And we can learn coping mechanisms that either support or continue to challenge us, and identifying the difference in a healthy manner is important. So you talk about working out and being important to you. For me, I used to push so hard. Before the last two back surgeries, I was pulling out 100 miles and bike rides. I would climb a mountain after doing a kickboxing class. I was in boxing. Like every day I was working and pushing myself hard. And I could do it. I was modifying, I would kind of like do something because my back wouldn't let me fully get range of motion. My roundhouse wasn't as high as I wanted, but if I could shift my hips a little bit, like I'm learning how to move my body now in a way that doesn't just accommodate that scar tissue and that trauma in the past, but figuring out how to work and heal it. So you talk about the cathartic effort to embrace positivity and a growth mindset. And for me, it is learning how to use my body in a way to move in opportunities that don't continue to hurt myself. So I don't use the same techniques I did before my last two surgeries. And I'm not much more kinder to my body. I do weights, limited weights. I don't do the kickboxing. I do pure bar. I don't do boxing. I do Pilates. I do yoga instead of the mountain climbing. Well, I used to live in Arizona. There's a lot more mountains in Arizona than there are in Dallas. So it really comes down to learning from that past so that we can learn and continue to grow.
Yeah, I heard you say Arizona. I have to say I'm a very big fan of Arizona. My brother lived there for about, I think it was like 2.5 years. And 2 years ago, I went to go visit him, and I love Arizona. He lived in, it's not Scottsdale, because I said Scottsdale. What's the other Dale?
Glendale?
Glendale, thank you.
Mhm.
Glendale, Arizona. That's where he lives. But Phoenix is absolutely beautiful. But what I love, and I know the Grand Canyon, obviously, that's the big ticket item. I love Sedona, Arizona. That is heaven on earth. I swear on my life. Have you ever you've been to Sedona?
Obviously, yes, of course. Sedona was a weekend getaway for us. I lived in a little town called Anthem, farthest northern piece of the Phoenix area, but on your way up to Sedona. So it would be about less than an hour and a half drive. So we would make weekend destinations there. And despite living there for almost 10 years, I don't think I hit every trail, not for lack of trying, but yeah, all the hiking trails out there, absolutely loved them. And Sedona's just a beautiful place. It's very calm, it's tranquil, it's a good place to relax. Another reason I like my workouts is that's how I deal with my stress. That's how I find my calm, and so that I can deal with other things. But Sedona, highly recommended. Actually, I prefer Sedona to the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon is pretty much one path. You can walk the rims, but with Sedona, you've got opportunities to climb mountains, bridges, through mountains or through the tree covered in the full exposed desert, and under the full exposed sun, if you are so inclined to get a little sunburnt. But it just kind of depends on the day. But um, yeah, highly recommend Sedona. When was the last time you were out there?
Well, two years ago when I went to go see my brother, but I'm getting out there soon enough. I have a large I always talk about my large bucket list of places that I have to go, and I know I've already been to Sedona, Arizona, but I need to go back like once a year. I'm enthralled by it. I think it is so beautiful. Literally the Airbnb that me and my family were in. Like you walk outside and there's just red rocks everywhere. I always think to myself, like, if you live in Sedona, Arizona, there is no possible way that you could be unhappy. I don't believe it. It's too beautiful. It's just so aesthetically pleasing. Oh, I can't get enough of Sedona, Arizona. I think it's one of the best places I've ever been to, and I'm gonna keep going again.
Yeah. I had actually have a trip coming up the week after next to Arizona, the end of March, Arizona. So yeah, I go out as much as I can. This time of year, especially when it's cold, a little bit colder there in Albany here than in Dallas today, but it's even better in Arizona. But that's the beauty of what I do. I get to travel all over the world or all over the US. So in structures, I handle coast to coast. So pre-COVID, I got to do a lot more fun travel. So we go back to alternative paths into the law. I used to travel. I mean, I went to Alaska. That was a fun mediation. I extended a couple days. I went sled dog riding during the summer, not during the winter months. I would die. It's way too cold for me to do that during the winter months. But they put the sled dogs on wheels, and we did that with the claims professional and the attorney. We had a lot of fun, just kind of embracing. It's so easy to get caught up in our work, and part of the balance of life is to blend the two. So we had a lot of fun. We got to see the glaciers. I think I'm still waiting for that Hawaiian mediation, y'all. If anybody needs someone to go, I'll happily volunteer. Those always end up getting canceled at the last minute, or they get settled before everyone has to transfer or fly out, which I think is funny. I think a lot of people would want to go to Hawaii, but I would just have to add a couple of days while I'm there. I'm just saying.
It's fun. It's very funny you bring up Alaska because I've been on like 4 vacations on my life, and one of them was Alaska. I went with my family. I think it was I was going to my junior year of high school, but that place is absolutely. I'm gonna go back there again. I actually got to stand on a glacier. I drank the glacier water, which was like the best water I think I've ever tasted in my life, which is funny because water tastes like nothing. But it was cold and you could just feel it was fresh. I took helicopter rides, we did dune buggies. So Alaska, I can't believe you said Alaska because literally the only two places I've really ever been to was Arizona and Alaska, other than living in New York, obviously, my whole entire life. Oh, Alaska, so much open land. It's insane. It goes on for miles and it's uninhabited, unoccupied. It's just there. And I've never seen that before because I'm always living around houses and cities and there's no open land for miles like that. So I was always fascinated by that. But switching gears just a little bit because I want to get into the weeds of structured settlements and talk about what you do at Arcadia right now. So what do you do? What is structured settlements? Talk about it a little bit.
Happily. Thank you for asking. Well, as most people will eventually find out, and if you don't know yet, you're going to find out now. A structured settlement is a way to settle a claim other than a single cash payment at time of settlement. In lieu of just a settlement for, say, $100,000, $1 million, doesn't matter the zeros or the commas involved. Whether it's all in cash or paid over time, a personal injury case is going to be paid tax-free. If those future payments are a consideration at the time of settlement and built into the terms of the settlement, those future payments are going to be made with no tax ever on interest, dividends, and capital gains to the injured party. That is significant. I make magic with money in way financial planners and the way financial planners can't duplicate. Look, I don't have to deal with the suitability requirements, early required minimum distributions or payments prior to age 59 and a half. I don't have to force payments to be issued in a certain timeline. I can do multiple benefit streams. We can do guaranteed payments for life. We can help people that have lifetime needs to be able to get payments maximized if they have reduced life expectancy. We can do lump sum payments, annual payments. I can literally, when I talk to people, we go back to that human aspect. What are their needs? What are their wants? What are their fears? What's keeping them from settling a claim? Why is it that what is it that they need to have that confidence and peace of mind to move forward? To be able to customize plans with people to help them bridge that next step between their pending case and their life after settlement is a profound honor. So we work with attorneys, we work with defendants, employers, insurance companies. We come in as a neutral party. We don't cost anything to anybody. You don't have to retain us. You don't have to pay us. I pay out of pocket for my own travel. If in the end the person decides that they don't want a structure, I consider it still a win because they had an opportunity to understand what their options were, because it only exists at time of settlement. After their settlement, and they take constructive receipt of that money, and that's just a fancy way of the IRS saying you've touched it. It's now taxable. Because when you get your 100,000, or whether it's a million, whatever dollar amount your settlement is, it's going to be tax-free. But then when you put it in your bank and put it in investments, then anything starts to become taxable. We avoid that taxable component. And in fact, we can actually take it to different degrees of opportunities for tax mitigating strategies. That attorney on that same case can defer a portion or all of their attorney fees to be able to customize when payments are made into the future as well. And they don't have to get hit at the highest tax bracket year one. They can customize their plan over time. So if it's a windfall case that they need to stretch out income so that it's a reliable source of funds for the firm for the next 5, 10, 20 years, that's what we do. Let's say they want to plan for their own retirement or their kids' college planning. That's what we do. And guess what? They're not going to get taxed year one. They get taxed when they get the payments in the future. So their fees are going to grow pre-tax and then get paid based on the distribution when the benefits are paid. So it's not, unless they pay it all in 1 year, it's going to potentially lower their total taxable obligations or marginal tax bracket, depending on where their income level is. But even deferring it until they get to retirement age, you've got all that accumulated tax-free growth with a guaranteed tax-free future payment. And if we can take it to the next level, we'll also share that there's market-based investments. So for right, and you get more. But just wait, there's market-based options out there. Companies like Pacific Life, Prudential, Vanguard, BlackRock, these companies offer market-based investments as well. So you're not tied to the fixed and guaranteed, which has a place in every potential conversation because they're dealing with people that have a lifetime of needs. You're talking income replacement, future medical expenses. There's a component of stability that comes with a structured settlement that gives people that peace of mind, knowing that their settlement is safeguarded for years to come. Do you want to, but wait, there's more.
Please.
Guess what? This doesn't apply just to personal injury cases. Okay, we're talking about non-personal injury cases now. Litigation, employment litigation, cases where you don't have a personal physical injury, much like the attorney fees that can defer their income. On a non-personal injury case, the IRS also allows for the payments to be made over time. So again, they can invest their settlement to be paid into the future. And it can be customized. So instead of getting paid year one, which often on, like say for employment cases can be taxable, they're going to get hit right off the bat at the highest tax bracket, most likely. But if they stretch it out over a few years or customize it for however long they want those benefits to be paid, they're mitigating tax liability by dropping their marginal tax bracket. So we get to work with people in that capacity. But wait, there's more.
Do it.
There's also opportunity to structure in the sale of businesses and in property. So we're mitigating capital gains. So we're not talking just to personal injury attorneys. We're talking to employment liability attorneys. We're talking to merger and acquisition, CPAs, tax attorneys, like across the board, there are opportunities to save on taxes that most people have no idea that exist. And after the settlement, after the contract, after the deal is done, it's too late to do it. You've got the constructive receipt. IRS says that window has closed. And too many people say, I wish I had known. So my goal is to help people from being in that position by sharing this information to you, Nate, to your audience, to help them understand that these opportunities exist that can really help diversify a investment portfolio. I mean, we're not talking just to the people who can't manage money or kids who can't touch the money until they reach age of majority. We're talking about people in the ultra, in the high level income, they're looking for alternative tax favorable strategies. Even for those tiniest of cases, we can structure as little as $10,000 for kids. We're seeing money double. And why not give them that extra money? It doesn't cost them anything. They already have to wait until they receive the money. This is a true value add, and my give back to be able to give more in the claims settlement process that I yearned for as a claims adjuster, and to be able to do more as a professional financial planner that I couldn't do in the traditional retail investment space. I now have the experience and the knowledge, and I love what I do. So I encourage everyone, we're talking about alternative paths in the law. If we find ourselves in a position, Nate, you're questioning, am I going to go to law school? Am I not going to go to law school? And after you go to law school, if you're in that job and you don't know if you really love that position, look for that next opportunity. It doesn't mean you're turning your back on what you've already done. It means you're growing, you're expanding your knowledge, and that next opportunity might connect those paths. You can connect the dots by looking back. Your hindsight's 2020, but you don't know what that next opportunity is going to bring until you embrace it.
I I
That's
have
what structured settlements are. What do you think about that, Nate?
I mean, I gotta be honest, like this conversation will be ingrained in my memory till I'm dead. I got no words, honestly. I'm absolutely enthralled by structured settlements right now. This is fantastic. This is amazing. I can't believe something like this exists, and I had no idea. Not that I really expected to really know something like this, but I am absolutely fascinated. I feel like this is like a diamond in the rough that you kind of found and emulated, and it's just, oh my gosh. I just
I love the smile on your face right now. I
that's
know our audience isn't going to be able to see this, but you're like a kid at Christmas right now. I love it. And that's how I feel every day when I get to work with people. It really is making magic with money in a way that most people have never even heard of. And to all the attorneys listening, look, I get it. Y'all have a lot to learn in law school, and a small little subset of a tax code for one little provision of a personal injury settlement, or these other things that have happened since you've been to law school, and in the sale of businesses and real estate. You're not a subject matter expert in everything. None of us are. So leaning into your experts to be able to just recognize that I don't know everything, but I know who to call. And so when you call me, that's what I do. I don't pretend to know your job. I've done enough personal injury settlements, written, drafted settlement documents. I've handled thousands of cases and settlements over my years. But yeah, I have a perspective and an appreciation for the work an attorney needs to put in, from both the injured side, from the claims side, and from the settlement and negotiation side. And so post-settlement, my job is to help people understand and make the process as easy as possible. And that includes starting with that first conversation. What is this case about? Does it make sense to structure? What is a structure? How would it look? How do I talk to my client about this? How do I understand it? Is this something that can benefit me? We break it down on a granular level, because I remember the first time as a claims adjuster, I came across a structured settlement and I felt completely out of water. I didn't know what I was talking about. They wanted me to present a settlement that included future payments. I really didn't understand the concept. It's not, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not a structured settlement course in law school. I think there should be. I mean, that's just my humble opinion, but I'm happy to offer a private tuition or private counseling for anyone who's interested, though.
I mean, I gotta be honest. I want to do structured settlements right now. This is insane. When you started talking about how you can construct a settlement and put it within the market, I'm blown away. I'm utterly fascinated. Now I'm just gonna sit here for the rest of the day looking up structured settlements, quite honestly, because I. I'm at a loss for words, honestly. As some of the kids would say nowadays, Jodie, you cooked. I have to be honest. That was amazing. I mean, your wealth of knowledge is absolutely insane, and the amount that you know, and just you're an expert. You're an absolute expert at this stuff. And I have to recommend everyone in my audience, if you're listening and you need a structured settlement, please reach out to Jodie, because she literally knows everything about it. And I'm just
I love your enthusiasm, Nate. And a lot of people feel the same way. I talk to financial planners who are doubtful, who question, and they're like, that's too good to be true. There's no way. And then I show them, they're like, tell me more. And so if you do have financial planners in the audience, again, I will happily tell them more, help you understand what's going on, because again, we just don't know what we don't know. And unfortunately, a lot of what we think we know may be influenced by commercials that come on television or the radios and really interesting jingles that make you say, that feels a little icky. It's absolutely the opposite of what we do. Companies that try to buy structured settlements and exchange for cash today actually require changing the payee and require court approval to do that, and it's expensive. They're taking pennies on the dollar and exchanging future payments for that immediate payment now. And unfortunately, it's targeting those that are not probably in the best position to be making those decisions. They'll scrub court records to figure out the incompetence, the incompetence or the minors or anyone that required, the judge to sign off on a settlement as a roadmap as to who to call. And they get so aggressive. I've had a client show up or call me when they showed up in a black SUV with a briefcase full of $10,000 cash, encouraging him to sign off on his future payments. It's a little icky. But that's not to say there's not a place for it. I'm not here to judge, but unfortunately, when people hear about structured settlements, that's often their first introduction. So when they hear about it, when they're hearing their own personal injury settlement discussions, that may be the foundation that they're first making that impression or their opinion on. So we have to educate. That's a huge part of what I do, both for the claims professionals, for the personal injury attorneys, for the injured parties and their families, just understanding what their choices are so that they can make informed decisions. And probably one of the biggest financial decisions of their life is this is my personal mission, my goal.
Yeah, you love to safeguard your settlement. I know that.
Safeguard your settlement.
I know that's
Yeah.
your thing. I have to be honest. I am sold. I am absolutely sold. I know I don't need, this is just a podcast talking about your journey, but the best sales pitch on the Lawyers in the Making podcast, maybe ever. I will if I ever run into a settlement or something, Jody, I'm calling you. Expect a phone call from me because I am absolutely enthralled right now. I am just fascinated. I'm just fascinated. I can't believe all the information I just heard, and I need to study it now. Wow, wow.
So the lawyers in the making, you want to impress your boss, you want to impress the partners, you want to come to, want to stand out. You're interning, you're doing a clerk, whatever. Ask about a structured settlement. Is it a personal injury case? Why are they not structuring? Is it a minor settlement? Why are they putting in a block savings account or the registry of the court? If they put it in a structure, they could get so much more, and it's guaranteed. There are just opportunities to challenge, not necessarily challenge in a bad way, but just to continue your own personal journey of knowledge. And just because it's not discussed in the room, pull aside someone that you trust and say, hey, have we considered structured settlement? If not, let's call Jody. Let's see what she has to say. Or, just have a conversation with me. You don't have to everything's confidential, but we don't even have to exchange names. We can just talk about case facts. And if it makes sense, then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I once again, unbelievable. I knew when I started the question that I wanted to get into the weeds of structured settlement. This is not what I was expecting, but I'm so happy that I asked the question and we really got into the weeds of it because I think it's an amazing thing that I had no idea about. Knowledge is power, folks. And I think something that you said before, not to make it about philosophy, but something you said before, that a lot of lawyers don't have this knowledge and you very much educate a lot of people about it. Socrates, who's one of my favorites. I like the ancient Greeks, but his very famous quote is the only thing I know is that I don't know. And that's something I've held on to my life for very much a long time since I found Socrates, and it's something I employ, and is sort of a mindset that I have, is that I don't know anything, and my one goal is to know more, because once again, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better. But Jody, before I keep talking about structured settlements, let's go to the last three questions here. First question is, what are the sorts of things that you consume, not food, consume on a daily basis, either that be on social media, maybe Instagram, YouTube, the X platform, any favorite content creators that you have, anything like that. What's crossing the transom of Jody's mind on a daily basis?
Well, LinkedIn is my go-to platform. Definitely embracing not only our social media presence there, but growing in our industry. The National Structured Settlement Trade Association, NSSTA. I am the chair of our innovation committee. We're trying to continue to grow awareness, grow products. You're excited to hear about the market-based structured settlement, a growth structured settlement opportunity. That didn't exist before several years ago. So, we're constantly growing and evolving, and staying up to date on that is important. I am, immersed in local businesses here in Dallas. So continuing to network and to grow through other women in my local community and in business in general, because we need to grow outside of our current circle and challenge ourselves to be aware of other people, their experiences, and their industries. So I try to immerse myself in that. I'm definitely immersed into the whole wellness, physical, mental, emotional. My own personal journey is that, which we've kind of talked about on the physical end, but I have a child that's dealing with mental health issues. So to be able to support them and, others in a similar capacity is important, because I think the influx of information through social media, especially in our youth, is a profound challenge. And as parents, as professionals, we need to be careful of what we put out there, and careful of what our children see, to the degree that we want to keep them safe. Nothing quite like making very adult decisions with less than fully formed prefrontal cortexes. But just to be able to share that awareness, and to protect and to grow and to embrace all these is kind of where I immerse myself on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I agree with the point about social media, and the internet as a whole. I think it's the greatest blessing, the greatest curse ever given to humankind. I love the internet a lot. All of the information I've ever gotten in my life is from the internet, but there obviously is all its downsides. Obviously, social media. I love the Instagram Reels. I can't deny that, it's also, just like you said, it's important to watch what your kids are looking at, and make sure they're being careful about that, because I think at the end of the day, stuff like Instagram, stuff like X and YouTube, they're built based upon for you to keep scrolling and watching and looking. The algorithm is garnered towards you,
Addicting.
and it's addicting, and it's addicting for a reason, because that's the business model, and that's what they're looking to do, for better or for worse. So I think that's a really important point to make. But second to last question here, Jody. You're always working, you're doing structured settlements, which I love so much now. This is my favorite thing in the world. I'm going to tell my parents about it and be like, guys, look at this. Actually, my dad just settled. Like, see, I should have known.
Oh man, we wish we had known.
Well,
This is a conversation that happens often, though.
for,
Yeah.
for for future settlements for my dad, I'll let him know.
No, honestly, no one ever wants to. I hope no one ever needs to talk to me outside of, professional capacity. Like if you're involved in a personal accident, I never want to have to work with you again, with all due respect. I mean, having to be in that conversation in the first place is bad enough. And I applaud everyone who makes it to me to have that conversation. But no one wants to be in that position in the first place, let alone again. So for your dad, let's hope it's one and done and we don't have to worry about that again. But you know what? Now he can share that information with others so that they don't have to say the same fateful, I wish I had known
I agree. I mean,
reflection.
it seems like it's worked out because we're getting a new kitchen. It's being built right now. So it's how bad could it really be? But you're doing structured settlements, you're always working, you got two wonderful twin kids. What does an ideal Friday night and Sunday morning look for Jodie?
Oh, Nate. Gonna make me blow my secrets here. So Friday nights is either a date, maybe if I'm lucky. But I am perfectly okay with just having a night in on a Friday night just to relax. The weekdays are pretty busy. We have a great support network in my office. I've got 4 case managers. I got 3 paralegals, but we keep busy. So by the end of the week, I'm tired. So Friday night is usually pretty laid back, quiet, light up fireplace, order in takeout or something. It's pretty laid back. But on Sunday mornings, I do my massages, I read, I meditate. I will try to get out and do something fun before I pick up my kids. I get the weekends off, so the weekends are very much me time. So I do all the things during the weekend that I don't get done during the week, as we all mostly do. But I'm pretty quiet, laid back. I like gardening. I like definitely getting my workouts in. Recently discovered HotWorks. Have you ever heard of that? It's a growing thing. It's crazy.
Is that
Working out.
in the heat, right?
Yeah.
Like the
I
sauna workout.
I crank it up to 130 degrees, get some hot yoga in, some Pilates. It's all good. But yeah, I read, meditate. I really work on myself. That's my self-care time. And so when I'm not working on that, I just get caught up on other things around the house.
Well, final question, Jody. I do this at the end of every episode. What are your words of wisdom for the aspiring law students, the current law students, and even the current legal professionals, as well as any other professionals or young students out there looking for alternate paths?
Follow your heart, follow your intuition. In the end, life is short. And tomorrow's promised to no one. So make your life's work matter to you and to those that you serve, because that is the legacy that you live and you leave. And if you're not happy, dig into the root cause of what that is. For me, I thought I was stressed out about my work. Turns out there was some issues in my marriage, and I needed to dig into that. It wasn't my work at all. But before then, like I was married long after I had started changing my careers. It was identifying that I there was something missing in what I was doing, and I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew that I needed to do something else. And although I've never been in law, I have danced with the legal profession my entire life. I to the degree most people ask me if I am a lawyer at this point, because I go to so many mediations and we negotiate so many cases and write releases and court orders. But I really encourage everyone to embrace the uncertainty, because that is your body, that is your intuition's cue that something needs to change. We talked about scar tissues and how, when we're starting to feel pain points, that is an indication that you need to evaluate what's going on. Doesn't necessarily mean that you need to make serious change, but maybe there's some other changes that can happen, whether it be improving work-life balance or adding more uh, opportunity to educate or to learn, or add more fun into your life. But whatever it is that brings you joy and happiness is the path that I follow. And I would encourage others to do the same, because life is short and we never know what tomorrow is going to bring. And we can work ourselves to the point where our bodies will shut us down and then we have no choice. So before that time comes, listen to the cues, embrace opportunities, and recognize everything is a choice. We have the choice to make decisions that can shape our future And whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, we own that choice.
Beautifully said. Extremely philosophical. And you know I love that. But Jody,
Thank you.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast because that's the podcast. Thank you for coming on, Jody. I really do appreciate it. And for everyone out there listening, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.